No Scottie Barnes, who's out for 3 weeks, but folks, we still got ourselves a good basketball game. Let's go to the film room. Grady Dick continues to impress this season, a career-high 30 points, and it opened up with this three-point shot off of 2 pin downs, staggered pin downs. Does a great job of lifting up in the corner or shaking up in the corner when there's a drive, and he gets downhill and finishes in traffic. Great drive here by Jamal Shead, finds Grady in the corner, and he hits it. Again, I love the way Grady attacks closeouts because guys are trying to run him off the line, so he attacks it and then scoop layup here. There's some great activity by Jamal Shead. Gets the steal in transition, and Darko said Grady is starting to dunk, and he dunks this one. And I just love how relentless he is moving off of the ball. So watch, he passes it to Jakob, clears the side, loops around, gets the ball back, gives it back to Jakob, tries a dribble handoff, gets it, connects on the lob, gets fouled, and that's just all because he was active off of the ball. Love this route he runs. So Jakob sets a screen, he curls, settles into the mid-range jumper. Jamal sets the screen for Grady to pop out, then he goes into a dribble handoff and settles into a floater here. Again, really great craft in the mid-range area. Most of Grady's points have come in the mid-range, especially tonight. I'm really intrigued by possessions like this where he'll come downhill, pick and roll with Jakob, defenders go under, and he just settles into a pull-up jumper. Not going to happen now, but I do see that eventually being a part of his game, which is really intriguing for his star potential. In transition, always filling lanes, good hit-ahead pass by Jamal Shead, and finishes this wild acrobatic finish. I can't believe I'm saying this. Even the Charlotte broadcast was like, this man is like George the Iceman Gervin. Pretty standard set here for the Raptors, and with the defender going over, Grady curls to get separation and rises up over top. That is a superstar play. I love how he's not afraid of contact too. Here he is just fighting with the trees to get the offensive rebound, and here curling to the basket, embraces the contact, goes to the line. Grady, by the way, took 8 free throws tonight, which is a really great sign. Here he is once again, attacks the closeout, gets downhill, gets fouled. Again, constant activity. So watch, he flares out here, goes into a pick and roll, nothing there, dumps it off to Mobo, pops back out. Like, that's just constant activity that you need for a player like him, and he is excelling this season at that. Folks, Grady Dick, a new career high, 30 points for him. Super impressed with what he's doing. And look, I understand there's been injuries, and so there's more opportunity, but I actually think that's part of it, right? Like, glass half full approach here. Grady Dick is going to get much more opportunity to shine, to stretch his legs offensively, to figure out what he can and can't do. And I think the Raptors leaned on him a lot in this game offensively to give them a spark. He was the guy who set the tone initially when they fell down 9-0, and Grady was like, nah, we're not going to do that tonight. You know, we're not going to just lay down. And so Grady stepped up big time offensively, hit a lot of great shots. And this is crazy because, you know, he's doing this while not necessarily shooting the ball well, right? He was 2 of 6 from 3 tonight, hit a couple of threes, but ultimately he got to a 30-point game as a shooter by just making 2 threes. So when you kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture of things, once the 3 ball becomes more consistent, which again, I'm saying will happen. He is hitting the threes now, but to get to a point where he's like a 37, 38, 39% shooter on pretty high volume, when it gets to that point, Grady is a guy who will eventually have a 40-point game. It's pretty crazy to say, but this is a guy who just had 30 points, mostly off of mid-range jumpers, mostly off of 2-pointers, attacking the basket, closeout, got to the free throw line, so he's not afraid of getting contact or drawing contact, initiating it. This is a guy who probably will end up with a 40-point game in his career. And pretty crazy to say because I think, you know, you consider Grady, you know, a lot of people have been like, Grady Dick can be this great role player, 5th starter type. I think we need to start looking at Grady a little bit differently. I think we need to start looking at him as a potential offensive star. What he grows on the defensive end, we'll see. Again, if you guys have watched this, I've told you guys that I believe that, you know, realistically, Grady Dick can become a pretty, at least neutral defender, if not positive, eventually in his career. And so you start to think about like, man, a guy who could go off for 30 like that, really incredible, mid-range craft, off-ball savant in the way that he moves and relocates and the way his IQ works off of the ball, and how he works with his teammates, some of the passing that he does once he gets into a rhythm that way, the mid-range jump shot, all of that stuff, right? You start to think of star potential, of at least all-star potential eventually. I think of guys like Peja Stojakovic, who has had an all-star game under his belt, was really, really good in his prime, and was similar, can do some similar things to Grady Dick, the mid-range stuff, obviously shooting the ball well, attacking closeouts, creating like that. A lot of people have made the Peja comp. I'm not the first one to do it, but just to kind of give you a star outcome for what Grady can eventually be, that's what he can do. So really, really great stuff from Grady Dick tonight, who just continues to take another step in his career. Really special stuff from him, truthfully. Even against the Charlotte Hornets, even the fact that they're out and injured a bunch of guys, I think the fact that he can get reps like that and also do it as efficiently as he did is an indicator that he could eventually become a star. Will that happen? We'll see. I mean, this is the whole point of a rebuild, is figuring out if these guys can actually become something, right? And I think Grady's well within, the realm of getting to that level eventually. Want to talk about a guy who is carving out a role for these Toronto Raptors because of these injuries, stepping into a starting spot, Davion Mitchell. Had 11 points and 11 assists tonight, I believe. Let me double check. I do have the box score out this time. Thank you very much. 11 points and 11 assists tonight. Thought some of his connections with Jakob Poeltl in the pick and roll were great, so let's talk about them in the film room. So I'm really enjoying the connection with Davion Mitchell and Jakob Poeltl. Here he is. Nice pocket pass to Jakob for the floater. Later on, pick and roll, side pick and roll, empty side. Just feeds it to Jakob, who finishes inside. And Jakob had an excellent finishing game, but he's had a stretch of pretty great games as well inside finishing. Another empty side pick and roll here. This time he lobs it over top, and Jakob finishes with the floater again. They just kept going to that at one point in the game. This one, high pick and roll. LaMelo stays flat. This time Davion goes all the way and hits Nick Richards with a reverse layup. That's really crafty, and I like that Davion is becoming more aggressive, especially with these injuries and guys being out. You need a guy like Davion to put pressure on the basket because he's keeping defenses honest. This time, empty side pick and roll, and he settles into a floater himself. And so Davion just had a really good game. Really efficient game, too. I know he didn't hit his shots 0-5 from the three-point line, and so, people will be like, man, I don't know the viability of him staying in the league if he's not making his shots. I'm like, that's valid. He's a smaller guard. He's not, making his bread off of being this big, massive guard who can play, make, and defend for you, but I do think if you're trying to live and survive as a backup guard in the NBA, especially a backup guard on a rebuilding team, what Davion Mitchell has provided has been really, really sturdy and really solid. And that's not to take away from Jamal Shead. I think Jamal Shead has been incredible too. And that's become a conversation now where it's like, you know what? Why not give more opportunity to Jamal Shead? By the way, that's around the corner. That eventually will happen. I think the Raptors will, at least this summer, have to make a decision and say, okay, do we want to give more opportunity to Jamal and have him be the full backup point guard, or do we want to re-sign Davion and have both of them be this sort of two-headed monster off of the bench? I don't know. I'm not sure what the Raptors would decide in that moment, but I do think Davion is making a case for being an NBA player, sticking around in the league, whether that's with the Raptors or elsewhere, who knows, but I think he sticks around, man. I think the playmaking is good. I think the pick and roll craft has been good. I know he's worked through some turnovers and issues, especially at the start of the season. I think of that way over the head pass he had against Denver on Monday. He's had some mistakes. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's a really good growing moment for him to be given this opportunity to be playing, what is it? Got the box score again. To be playing 29 minutes a night. And finding ways to survive on the floor, but both defensively, because Davion is such a great defender. He did a great job against LaMelo tonight, even though LaMelo cooked for the second quarter. I think the defense is his bread and butter. He's trying to figure out what kind of offensive player he can be. And the pick and roll stuff with Jakob intrigues me because it's like, okay, this is what you can do. If you can get downhill, if you can put pressure on the rim, if you can finish there, if you can develop a mid-range craft, floaters, etc., and be this playmaker, then there is a role for this team. There's a role for you on this team. There's a role for you in the NBA. And that's not to take away from Jamal Shead. I hate when the comparison stuff happens on the same team because these guys compete with one another on a daily basis. Of course, Jamal will eventually get more minutes. Of course, Jamal will likely be the backup point guard of this team. He's been so impressive from the defensive end, pushing it in transition. I think the playmaking has been great. He had, I believe, 8 or 9 assists himself tonight. Yeah, he had 9 assists tonight. Jamal has been freaking great. But I think we are okay to acknowledge the fact that Davion has also been very, very good, especially since he's been forced to step up as a starting point guard for this team. And, when they get Emmanuel quickly back, overall, if we're talking about this game, and, I think RJ Barrett had a really good game, 31 points and 8 assists. I was going to do something on RJ and his passing tonight and his manipulation, but I think that's sort of, it's spoken for, if you will. RJ, averaged a career high in assists with the Raptors last season. I think now with Scottie out, there's just going to be more opportunity for him to do that. He did that tonight. And so, look, there's just going to be more opportunity for playmakers on this team to shine in the next month while Scottie is out. And, man, is that schedule tough. They just lost to the Hornets in a grinded-out win, and, that was one of the games in the next 15 or 16 games where they viably could have won. You look at their schedule, you look at their next month, right? If you look at November, there's a lot of tough games out there. And so I'm not sure where the wins are going to come on the standings for the Toronto Raptors moving forward. But I do know that developmentally, this team is playing hard, which kicks ass, which makes for entertaining basketball, which I think is important because last season was not fun. Towards the end of the year, that was not entertaining. It was not fun. We didn't think any of these guys were actually going to stick on the roster, the Jordan Warras and Malik Williams of the world. That just wasn't going to happen. But this season, first of all, we know that a lot of this group is going to grow together moving forward. We know that most of them are locked in, at least for the next few years. And so watching this team develop an identity and also being fun and being competitive and not giving up and not just laying down and be like, all right, we're going to get 20'd by the Hornets tonight. I think that is important. And so as we go through this month, which will be a rough month, I just want people to remember that. I think the Raptors are playing hard. And I think there are some moments, Grady, Jamal, Davion, RJ, Jakob, Ochai, who had a good game. There will be moments where you can enjoy this team. So use that. Enjoy them. But subscribe to Raptors Republic. Like and comment everything that we do. We appreciate what you guys are doing. We appreciate how you guys support this channel, truthfully. It's been awesome to see the love that we're getting, not only on the recaps that I'm doing right now, but a lot of the podcasts and the shows and the things that Samson does on his end as well. So appreciate you guys. As always, I will see you guys for Friday. Lakers, I'll be at the game for that one, which should be interesting. But see you guys later. Bye-bye.